Thank you for joining us today. I'm Carol Postal, board member, Delivering Good, and co-chair of our first ever Women of Inspiration Roundtable series. Karen Bromley, dear friend, co-founder, board member of Delivering Good, and I are delighted to bring you the first of 3 panels celebrating women's leadership. Even as the issue of gender equality improves, supporting women in their journeys to leadership will require critical changes. All of our panelists will share unique perspectives on the challenges and opportunities to gaining leadership. Women's leadership is critical to the mission of Delivering Good. For 36 years, we have provided new merchandise to help instill dignity, hope, and self-esteem for children, men and women, and whole families facing difficult circumstances. Many of the women who receive Delivering Goods donations are dealing with poverty, unemployment, unstable housing, former incarceration, family health challenges, and other difficulties. They do not often have a chance to think about their dreams or to be supported in them. I am truly moved by the personal stories of how our work makes a difference. Ayesha is a single mom of 2 who served in the Air Force for 12 years. She became homeless after escaping from domestic violence, but found help at our community partner Mustard Seed of Central Florida, an organization Karen and I personally visited. Ayesha shared that these donations are a blessing for her and her children because they had so little. She was so grateful that there are people who care about people like her. Women are also many of the decision makers who provide the essential products and financial resources that allow us to pursue our vision of a more equitable world. Delivering Good needs your support so that we can continue helping millions of people in need each year. During this program, you will see a message to support us via text to pledge, so please donate when you see the message. You can also visit us online to donate at delivering-good.org. If you have not registered for our June 9th and June 16th sessions and you know who you are, please do so today. I'm sure you will not want to miss either of them. For today's program, we are honored to be joined by Congresswoman Kathy Manning, representing North Carolina's 6th Congressional District, our panel moderator, Lisa Kaplowitz, and our panelists, Fran Horowitz, Cynt Marshall, and Rear Admiral Ayesha Mix. We are so thankful to them for sharing their insights with us. Representative Kathy Manning has been a leader in many arenas, from her legal and business career to community leader and philanthropist to nationally elected office. Right on. In Congress, she is a proud member of the Education and Labor and the Foreign Affairs Committees. In North Carolina, she is a strong advocate for affordable health care, prescription drug prices, quality education for every student, economic opportunity, and justice for all. And without further ado, we are now elated to bring you our keynote message from the Honorable Kathy Manning. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Hi, I'm Congresswoman Kathy Manning, and I'm proud to represent North Carolina's 6th Congressional District. I'm so sorry I can't be with you in person to discuss the importance of female leadership, but I'll try to participate in your meeting virtually, first by telling a little bit about myself, and then by answering some of the questions your leadership shared with me. I'm here today as the first woman ever elected to represent the 6th Congressional District of North Carolina, and the first Jewish person ever elected to represent North Carolina in Congress. When I think back on my career, I've had several other firsts. I was the first female attorney at a law firm I worked at early in my career in Washington, D.C. I remember my secretary telling me after a few months that she hadn't wanted to work for a female attorney, but after she got to know me, she was glad I was her boss. I was the first woman to take a maternity leave at the firm, and I was fortunate that the firm let me decide a fair maternity leave policy. Later in my career, I was the first woman selected to chair the board of the Jewish Federations of North America, a national charitable organization that raises almost $1 billion each year and provides assistance to communities in distress due to war, natural disasters, financial distress, and religious persecution. It was an extraordinary opportunity that allowed me to interact with people and communities all across the globe and see the impact we can have on others when we work to make the world a better place. That's what you're doing in your work with delivering good. I'm proud to support your mission to uplift and support women in need. I admire the work you're doing to help women who are facing economic, medical, social, and environmental challenges with your donations of items they need to overcome adversity and achieve their full potential. I know that last year, during the COVID-19 pandemic, Delivering Good helped a record number of people, delivering more than 7.7 million apparel items, nearly 51 million educational materials and toys, and more than 3.4 million personal hygiene products in all 50 states and Washington, D.C. The impact of these donations was felt by millions of families enduring increased adversity due to the global pandemic. So congratulations on all you've achieved. You've made a huge difference. So the first question I was asked by your leadership team was, what inspired me to see myself as a leader? I don't think there was ever a time when I decided I should be a leader. I just always knew that I was good at organizing things and people to do the things that I felt passionate about. The next question I was asked was, have I ever been supported in pursuing my dreams? I've been supported by countless women and men throughout my career, and I've found that I can learn something from almost everyone I work with. But there's one woman in particular whose support was instrumental in getting me on the leadership path. Her name is Marilyn Chandler, and she is the executive director of our Greensboro Jewish Federation. Many years ago, when I volunteered to help with a fundraising campaign to help the Soviet Jews leave the former Soviet Union where they were experiencing terrible discrimination, Marilyn must have seen something in me, and she made sure I was asked to co-chair the campaign. And when we raised triple our fundraising goal, she made sure that I got recognition at the national organization that our federation was part of. And then she made sure that I got into a young leadership training program that was part of the national organization. And as I rose through the national organization, she always made sure that I was informed about the complex issues we would face. And before I went to national meetings, she would always give me the name of someone I should seek out who was a friend of hers. And when I would find those people and mention Marilyn's name, it always opened doors for me and gave me credibility. And as I've learned about the formal structures of leadership, I realized that Marilyn wasn't just a mentor, she was a sponsor. She made sure that I had both the skills and the information I needed, and then she promoted me with her friends and her contacts. She's responsible for much of my leadership success, and I've heard her say that when I became chair of the board of that organization and got to travel the world and meet with important world leaders, she always felt like she was there with me, sitting on my shoulder, enjoying the view. I've learned so much from Marilyn, and I've tried to help other women the way Marilyn helped me. The last question I've been asked to answer is, what do women need to be leaders? I think women need three things: skills, confidence, and opportunity. First, skills. I think a leader needs to be a good listener, have an ability to identify problems and possible solutions, have the ability to advocate for what you believe is the best possible solution, and then you have to be a team builder because you can't do everything yourself. Second, confidence. Women have to be willing to speak up and be heard. Let your voice be heard early in the conversation so you have the confidence to be in the game. Last, opportunity. I learned early on that opportunity may come to you in surprising ways, and that sometimes you just have to grab that opportunity even when it's unexpected. That's how I got to be a member of Congress. I never expected to be in Congress, but when the opportunity came my way, I realized that I probably had the skills for the job, and the needs were enormous, so I grabbed that opportunity, and I'm glad I did. Thanks for asking me to be part of this event. I look forward to seeing what each of you will accomplish and who you will help along the way. And now we'll hear from Lisa Kaplowitz, founder and executive director of the Center for Women in Business at Rutgers University.
Thank you. It is so great to be here, and I am so excited to be moderating a panel with three amazing leaders who also happen to be women. So thank you all for joining us for our session today. I want to introduce, before we get started, actually, I just want to give a couple reminders. One, the chat is open, so we want to make this as engaging and informative and inspiring and empowering as possible. And so I encourage you, I will be monitoring it as we go along, but to write in the chat and make sure you send it to all panelists and attendees. And I also want to highlight that the bios of all of the attendees are going to, or the panelists are going to be in the chat as well, so you can find out more about these amazing women. My name is Lisa Kapowitz. As Representative Manning said, I am the founder and executive director of our Rutgers Center for Women in Business. Our mission is a lot of what Kathy had just said. We remove barriers, build community, and empower women with skills and confidence to succeed as women leaders. I've been advocating for the advancement of girls and women since I was in college, focusing on providing more opportunities for girls to play sports. So I'm honored to be here. And with further ado, I'm going to introduce our panelists. First, we have Rear Admiral Ayesha Mix. She is the Chief Nurse Officer, or in business terms, COO, of the U.S. Public Health Service Commission Corp. She advises the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and Surgeon General on talent development, recruiting, and leadership to more than 4,000 active duty nurses and civilian officers. She holds many degrees, one from Hampton University for nursing. She has a master's in public health from Johns Hopkins and has a doctorate in nursing practice focused on educational leadership from Case Western. She is an advocate for nurses, the nursing profession, and public health in general. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
Next, we have Fran Horowitz. Fran is CEO of Abercrombie and Fitch, and originally joined the company as president of the Hollister brand. As the mom of two teenage boys, we know that brand quite well. Congratulations on your recent earnings, and looking forward to discussing the new initiative you have and the new brand you launched in conjunction with Pride Month. She's had a stellar career with many household brands that you've heard of as president of Ann Taylor Loft, at Express, Bloomingdale's, Bergdorf, Saks, etc. She also serves on the board of many nonprofits as well, Serious Fund Children's Network, chief executives for Corporate Purpose, which is a CEO-led coalition that believes, in addition to shareholders, we also need to engage other key stakeholders like employees, our communities, and customers. And she's a member of the Columbus Partnership. She's a graduate of Lafayette College and holds an MBA from Fordham University. Thanks for being here, Fran.
Thanks for having me, Lisa.
And last but not least, we have Cynt Marshall, who is CEO of the Dallas Mavericks. So everybody catch the game, right, tonight?
Tonight.
As part of the series. She holds a long career at AT&T, and was actually instrumental in getting to be one of Diversity Inc.'s top 50 listed companies when she was there. She has become the gold standard for diversity, equity, and inclusion in the MBA, holds a career with Dow Chemical, and has numerous awards that I'm going to try to capture here. 2020 Girl Scouts of America Lifetime Achievement Award, Adweek's 30 most popular women in sports, 25 most influential women in business, and 50 most powerful women in corporate America. But with all of those accolades, when I asked her which one I should highlight, she says, my most proud achievement is that I am mom of 4 adopted amazing children. So thank you, Cynt, for being here with us today.
Thank you, Lisa.
Want to start out, thank you. Fran, let's start with you. We all have different leadership styles. How would you define your leadership style, and how have you leveraged the best parts of you to refine and define what that means?
Oh gosh, Lisa, first of all, thank you for having me today. Congratulations to Delivering Good and all the wonderful work that they're doing. And I just feel honored to be here with Ayesha and Cynt for all the wonderful inspiration that you just talked about them bringing to the world. For me, I actually make it very simple. I consider myself a very attainable, approachable leader. I like to say to the team all the time that good ideas come from everywhere and everyone, and we should be open to listen and always make sure that we're open to anybody's ideas. I'll give you a little anecdote of how I make sure I exercise that. Here at Abercrombie and Fitch, we're based in Columbus, Ohio, and we're very fortunate to have a beautiful 500-acre campus that our associates come to every day. And pre-pandemic, and hopefully when we get back to being in the office post-pandemic, I will be able to have this opportunity again, which is essentially walking to our cafe at least twice a day. I go get my coffee or I go get my lunch, and I make sure that I have a conversation with anyone and everyone who wants to talk to me. We have an average age of 27 on our campus with 2,000 associates, and I can't even tell you how much fun I have and how much I learn from being approachable and being a good listener when I'm in that cafe, just getting my coffee, and they don't even realize half the time what they're sharing with you, but what I come back with and the learnings that I have are terrific. So that's how I've approached it.
Thank you. I think that's so important. And Ayesha, how would you describe your leadership style, and how do you bring, yourself to work every day?
Sure, and thank you. And so for me, leadership truly is a critical role as part of what I do as chief nurse. I always describe it as a coaching style because leading, nearly 1,400 professional nurses, you really have to meet people where they are. And so we have a combination of, new calls to active duty, newly commissioned officers who might even be new to the nursing profession. And so in those opportunities, my leadership style takes more of a directive or instructional approach, right? But then you talk about and you move on and you have the higher skilled, more competent, senior level nurse officers. In that style, I tend to move into more of a supportive nature, right? Because really my focus is, stimulating and empowering the beliefs that they have in themselves and working towards a goal. So for me, there's always a path and there's always a goal that you're trying to achieve. So there's a flexibility in that. So it allows me as a leader to really, tailor and align my leadership behaviors based on the person's characteristics and based on the task in hand. So for me, that really is what drives it. It really is about relationship building. As a nurse, one of my characteristics, you talk about what does it lean on for as a part of me. As a nurse, I am really attuned to people's experience and the life that they're living. And so that's really what I tap into as a leader, to be sure that I'm connecting with people at a one-on-one level and really, tapping into what's inside of them and helping that to grow.
Thank you. No, and both of you, the way you're describing yourself is the epitome of servant leadership. And so I love hearing that. Cynt, you have, a varied career in various industries. And I know you were the first and a trailblazer in many of them. One of the questions Rita just asked, about bias, how have you brought your authentic self to leadership, and how have you dealt with, the only one who looks like you in that room?
I love it. I bring my authentic self, and just to pick up on what the others just said, and you said it too, I'm definitely a servant leader, a bold leader, an authentic leader. And so that's what I bring. And when I'm the only one, I know I'm the only one. And so what I try to do is make sure, even though I'm the only or the first, that I am not the last. So I show up as me. Now, at first, when it happened to me probably a good 40 years ago when I started my professional career, I suffered a bit from the imposter syndrome and thinking that any day now somebody would find out that I shouldn't be here and all that. But then I moved away from that once I realized, yes, I've earned the right to be there, and it's good that I'm there. And so I take it as an opportunity to show other people what happens when you have a woman or a Black person or a Black woman at the table. And so I use it as an opportunity to educate people and make them want to have more people who look like me. So I've gone from, it's an evolution. I've gone from the imposter syndrome of being the only one to the opportunity to educate, and then a strong commitment to bring more people to the table. So yes, sometimes I'm the only, sometimes I'm first, but I make a commitment to bring on other people and to make other people comfortable so that they will want to have more people who look like me around the table.
I love that. And I've been using that quote ever since I heard Vice President Harris say it. I may be the first, but you know, her mom said, don't be the last. And that's very powerful. So speaking of power, power is a 5-letter word. And a lot of women have trouble owning that and being comfortable with that power. You all have power. When did you discover your power in yourself? Ayesha, let's start with you.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think on a personal level, you know, I became a mom as a teenager. So I had my first daughter at age 15. And honestly, in that moment, looking at this little life that was now my responsibility, clearly not solely, but my responsibility, there was an awareness and a knowledge that I have now created someone who is going to go out into this world and become something. And I have a responsibility to her to enable that, right? And to foster that. Professionally, you know, it was many years later as a staff nurse on a labor and delivery unit. And I'll never forget because I was the youngest on the unit, the only Black woman on the unit, and I had the most degrees of all the staff. The charge nurse had an associate's degree. At that time, I had a master's degree, and she gave me the business every chance she could get. And, you know, as a graduate and a proud graduate of Hampton University, one of the things that attending an HBCU has instilled in me is this standard of excellence and really a reminder of who you are. And in that moment, I remember tapping into that and being able to stand up to her, right? And granted, you know, I probably displayed more courage than I was feeling, definitely shaking on the inside, but it was really tapping into that awareness and reminder of who I am. That confidence that comes with knowing that I had the skills, similar to what Cynt was saying, you know, that imposter syndrome tends to help you stay silent, right? And stay guarded. But in that moment, I was reminded that, you know, I deserve to be here. You know, I'm skilled, I'm talented, I'm licensed, and I should be here. And so in that moment, I recognized that finding your voice is certainly power. And so there's certainly power in, you know, knowing who you are, having faith in your skills, your knowledge, and then that willingness to push through any of the barriers that might come your way.
No, that's so important. And you both have touched on imposter syndrome. And, you know, I've spent a lot of time focused on that as well. And one of the things was an experience when it's that first time you're in leadership and you're all in that room and everybody's looking around. Oh my gosh, what should we do? What should we do? And you're looking around and it's that, oh crap moment. Everybody's looking at me and I'm supposed to know what to do. And then you realize I don't have the right answer, but I have a brain and I'm going to make my best educated guess. And it's in that moment when the most powerful CEO or whoever you think it is, you realize, you know what, they probably don't know for sure either. And that is so empowering in and of yourself. And that's the moment where you realize even the wrong decision is better than indecision because it propels you forward and you can always course correct. Fran, when did you discover your power?
So, you know, it's funny, Lisa, when I was preparing for this and I read this particular question, I actually took a huge deep breath because I think even today, I'm not sure I recognize that I have a power. It's something that's a little bit overwhelming when you think about that word. So I stepped back and gave it some thought. And I will tell you, I think the moment that I really realized I could harness good from my position was when I truly became a CEO and had an experience at Abercrombie. So one very important thing that we've been working on here is building a DNA and a purpose for each and every one of our brands. And so with that, many of the associates here, when I first got here, were volunteering at a camp nearby for kids with serious illness that could go to camp for free. And one of them invited me one day and said, you know, why don't you come and see what we're doing here? And I went on a tour of the camp and it overwhelmed me what was happening. Coupled with the fact that whenever one of these associates would come back on campus, they would have this ear-to-ear smile and this joy about them, about what they could do and how they could change the world. I found out that this camp was actually linked to a global organization called Serious Fun Children's Network, and that this good was happening around the world, and we are a global organization, and we could connect those two things and actually drive opportunity for these kids to go to camp. And so we made a 5-year partnership, and we have exceeded all of our giving, both from a charitable perspective as well as a volunteer perspective. And it has been just heartwarming for me to see how much the associates enjoy it. And I would say, just on the same note, the second thing, another great experience here was when I first started, the associates wanted to sell T-shirts in honor of Pride Month, which we, as you all know, we just started. And I was told that the former management didn't approve of doing that. And it literally just, it broke my heart. It just absolutely broke my heart. Today, almost 7 years later since I've been here, we have major partnerships with Trevor and with Listen. These are organizations that are doing great things in the world for the LGBTQIA community. And what's most important is that our associates and our customers find these to be the causes that they believe in. And I can harness my power to make that happen.
I love that. And Fran, as you're talking, I can hear the passion in what you're saying. And I'm getting some sort of echo. Okay, it's gone. I can hear the passion in what you're saying. And I was fortunate enough to have Oprah as a professor once, and for a class, and she said, find your passion and you will be successful. Yes. And it sounds like you have been able to find your passion, not only in corporate America, but leverage that for all of what you're doing outside of your CEO role, both with the camps and with the coalition that you joined. So that is beyond impressive and inspiring to me. Cynt, when did you discover your power and how do you use it? And I can see you beaming already, so I'm so excited to hear the story. How do you use it to champion women and other causes that you're passionate about?
I love this question, and I had to do the same thing that Fran did. I had to stop and really think about it because when I first read it, I started thinking about all my superpowers, and I have some superpowers, okay? But then I love the question because it makes us really think about our power, and we really do have it. And so I think I really discovered it when I was in high school. When I was a freshman in high school, I had 2 sisters graduating that year. And I grew up in a public housing project. I had the opportunity to go to a diverse high school, and I got a great education despite my zip code, which is one of my big passion points right now. Zip code shouldn't matter. Kids ought to get a great education. So I did. And so I went to this great high school, and I asked my mom at my sister's graduation, because there were 2 white guys on stage. I said, can a Black girl be the senior class president or the student body president? And she says, of course, you can do whatever you want to do. I mean, you got the power to do it. Like, okay, so I'm a freshman. And so by the time I became a senior, I drafted one of my little buddies and said, okay, we need to be the senior class president and the student body president so we can do some great things for the school, get people together, and then stand on that stage on graduation day. And of course, that had never happened. Well, make a long story short, we ended up on that stage. She was the student body president. I was the senior class president. We had an amazing year diversifying our student council, bringing new activities to the school, and not just making history, but really making a difference for the school and the community. And so it was from that time on that I knew that, with the help of a lot of great people and with a lot of teamwork and with the vision, I had the power to actually impact change, bring other people to the table, bring women to the table, just like I brought my buddy to that stage. And that's what I've tried to do at the Dallas Mavericks, is take the power and the platform that I have, put together an agenda that brings women and people of color and everybody to the table. When I started with the Dallas Mavericks 3 years ago, there weren't any women or people of color in leadership positions there. And now it's 50% women and 47% people of color. And that's because I had the power and the platform and had been given the opportunity by my boss, Mark Cuban, to really make change. And I had the power to do it, had the power to lay out a diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda, have the power to work with the Dallas Regional Chamber and bring a D&I agenda there and really elevate, educate, and empower women. And so it all started when I was a teenager. And so fortunately, I'm blessed that I'm still doing it.
I love that. And you have to add another quality, energy, because I can see it bounding off nonstop. Now I have to ask you a follow-up question, and then Ayesha and Fran, I'm going to have a lightning round for you, which we didn't prepare for, but that's what makes it more fun. Cynt, what's your superpower? You said you had some.
My memory. It is incredible. I have almost total recall. And so that's why I tell the folks, be careful what you tell me, because I can remember probably the socks you had on when you were talking to me 10 years ago. My husband said it makes him nervous, but it helps me, of course, remember a lot of things. And it helps me mostly remember a lot about people. When I got to the Dallas Mavericks, I had a one-on-one with every single person in the organization just to get to know them as people. And so committing all that to memory has helped me really serve the people in the organization. So that's my superpower, my memory.
I love it. Fran, what's your superpower?
Well, first of all, your Aunt Cynt, I am just in awe. Your power answer was fantastic. And we have something in common, because my superpower is also my memory. I have an extremely good memory. People get, actually, to your point, they get a little bit nervous because they will tell me something and I will remember it, or we'll do a product line and 2 years later I'll remember something that was on that product line. So I would say that my memory is definitely a superpower.
I love that. I should take lessons from you, because mine is not. My superpower, though, is getting stuff done. I'm very good at executing. Ayesha, what is your superpower, which we didn't prepare for, but then I also want to hear how you use your power to champion women and other issues that matter a lot to you.
Absolutely. My superpower is empathy. I have the keenest ability to really understand people, build that connection through what they're experiencing, understand what they're experiencing. And it really does relate into your follow-on question, in how I'm using that to champion other women, because from my perspective as a nurse, right, the nursing profession is largely women, right? However, within it, there exists still a dynamic where there are not many voices, there are not many leadership opportunities. And when other professions are engaging with nursing, there is a tendency to try to hold nurses back, or to help keep nurses as kind of helpmates, right? So in my role as the chief nurse, and not only for the Public Health Service, but also as chief nurse of the nation, representing on an international scale, there is a strong drive to find the voices, to elevate the voices, to amplify the voices, and to make sure that the women in nursing specifically are not seen, solely pigeonholed in one area or another. Getting people and the nurses to understand that, in a scenario, right? Because I tell people you can't have health without nurses. Nurses are everywhere doing everything. And the sky's the limit as far as what's available to you. So it's creating opportunities for people to think outside of the box, for the nurses and the women to see themselves in a different light. And as a leader, I have the opportunity to provide those opportunities, to kind of reach along and bring someone with me, tap someone on the shoulder and say, hey, you can do this. And I'd like to watch the light in their eyes that's kind of questioning. But they still come, and then their eyes are open, and then that possibility is then shared with others. So really opportunities, helping to light that passion that's inside of others, and creating space for women all the time.
It's so fascinating. I love that. And interesting that the two CEOs' superpower is memory, and the one responsible for all of the nurses and their well-being and growth is empathy. Not surprising, right? Great. So you all are inspiring. I know me, and I'm sure the rest of the audience as well. Who is your woman of inspiration, and why? Cynt, let's start with you.
Oh, my mother for sure. Carolyn Gardner, 85 years old, in the San Francisco Bay Area. My mom told my dad that she wanted to leave Birmingham, Alabama when I was 3 months old, because she didn't want her kids growing up in the Jim Crow segregated South. Actually, her church was the 16th Street Baptist Church, where the four girls, the church where it was they got killed in the bombing. But she left 3 years prior to that because she had a vision for what she wanted for us. Unfortunately, she was the victim of domestic violence. It was just horrible. She ended up leaving my dad when I was 15 years old. He took everything. When we came back to our place, everything was gone. And my mother just told us to just calm down, and told us that it was all about getting a good education. She said, it's not where you live, it's how you live. We were in the projects. She told us, don't worry about the stuff that was gone. I still remember her words to this day. She said all she wanted was peace of mind, that God would provide. He would take care of us. And so she put 2 books in my hand at an early age, a math book in one hand and a Bible in the other, and told me if I kept my head in those 2 books, I'd make it out. And I did. And my mother was an amazing, she still is, an amazing role model of perseverance, of faith, of hope. She taught me to value education, but more importantly, she taught me to love God and to love people. And truly, that's what my leadership style is all about, loving people. She taught me the 3 L's of leadership: listening to people, learning from people, and loving people in order to lead them. So she is my inspiration.
Oh, that's great. Listening, loving, learning. Really important words for, I think, all of us to remember. Ayesha, who is your woman of inspiration and why?
Yeah, I'm always challenged in answering this question because for me, there really isn't just one. There are so many women who have inspired me through my life and also through my career. And, when I look at what they each have in common, and I really smiled earlier, when Cynt was talking about authenticity, because it really is. They have a level of authenticity that is just unmatched. The ability to align their words, their actions, their intentions, and then also to be unwavering in that commitment to do it. And so the reason that it inspires me, though, is because it's grounding for me whenever I'm in a difficult situation or I have to make a difficult decision. I tend to pause and, think and really try to understand, what has me feeling confused or unsure. And 9 times out of 10, it's, there's something out of alignment with either my words, my actions, or what I'm intending to accomplish. And so for whatever reason, I'm feeling like whatever is expected of me is not what I would actually choose for myself. So I lean on, those powerful, unapologetic women who stand in their truth. And, interestingly, a very recent example, right, is Naomi Osaka, right? Her stance, her commitment to her own well-being, and just really, the sheer audacity of just keeping herself first, that is a perfect example of power through and through. And that really is what inspires me the most.
Yeah, I think that was very brave and also empowering to others, because by her doing that, the top of her career,
absolutely,
gives permission to others to do the same thing.
Fran, I have to jump in here. I love what just happened. I love what just happened. Ayesha, I love what just happened. It's because we have the power and we have the platforms to support Naomi and what she did.
Absolutely.
And so it actually gives me the chills that you just did that. And I think all of us who support her and agree with her, I think we need to use our platforms to offer that support and say, it is okay. It is okay. Yes. Oh my goodness. I love what you just did. I'm sorry. I had to jump in.
And I think being a champion for women also means that we have to be a champion for ourselves. And a lot of times we forget that. And that's really powerful and important as well. Fran, I know you've probably had many folks in your life as well. Who is your woman of inspiration and why?
It's again, for me, it's difficult to pick one. I am very fortunate to be in an industry that is filled with lots of women. So there have been many influential women in my life. But honestly, it goes everywhere from my 27-year-old daughter who grew up in Columbus, Ohio, and graduated from school and said, I'm going to New York, Mom, and I'm going to make it there. And 6 years later, she's thriving and doing fantastic. And I just couldn't be a prouder mom of that. I've worked very closely with a woman by the name of Clea Newman, Paul Newman's daughter. She is the one who's carrying his torch on and helping us, get all these kids to camp for free with these serious illnesses around the world. Oh my gosh. I've also been fortunate to work with Glenn Close. She has started an organization that's trying to really help bring mental wellness to the forefront and have people talk about it and be real about it. And we had an opportunity to work with her organization as well. So very fortunate. I've had very strong, exciting women to learn from in my career.
I love that. I think, for what I find most fascinating is all of these amazing women who pave the path for all of us. What I find most inspiring is every day I'm in the classroom with my students. A lot are first generation. A lot come from backgrounds where they did not have money. A lot are really dealing with a lot of issues and challenges that, a lot of folks haven't had to deal with, and they're making it through, and they're teaching me how to teach them, and I'm learning from them, and I'm excited as they go off now, and then they come back and they get to speak in my classroom and mentor the students as well. And that, to me, when you see and you can cultivate that talent, and you see that talent blossom beyond what you're even doing, I think is probably one of the most rewarding things ever. We've had a couple questions come through that I want to make sure we address. One was, what have you learned about yourself? So what is, and how, what is the greatest lesson or advice that you could give for these future generations? Ayesha, let's start with you.
My best advice is to never let someone else tell your story. Your story is what you created. I mentioned earlier that, I became a mom at age 15. I became a mom again at age 16. So at high school graduation, I was the mother of two daughters. There were many people who doubted. At no point in my life did I doubt that I would be someone. Now, what that ended up being, and certainly not chief nurse, right? That was not something that I wrote down in a journal. But the idea that this was just a blip, this was an obstacle, right? And so it's an obstacle, meaning that as in an obstacle course, I can go around it, I can go over it, I can go under it, but it's not a barrier. So what it means is to really follow your heart in everything that you do. What is important for you, what is important to you is your reason, and it's important for a reason. So lean into that as you design and understand your purpose in life. I definitely believe we are all here for a reason. For some of us, it takes a little bit longer to learn what that is, but never shy away from the potential that others see in you. I mentioned that tap on the shoulder that I do. Well, the reason that I do it is because I was tapped on the shoulder. And there have been many opportunities in my career that I didn't know that I was ready for it, but someone saw it in me and they tapped me on the shoulder and they gave me an opportunity. And I was smart enough at that time to at least accept it, or maybe fearful enough, right? But either way, I accepted it. And what it did was it helped me to see that inside myself. And it also created the network and the opportunities for me to grow and for me to succeed. So I see that, once you connect your passion with your purpose, it truly opens the doors to endless possibilities. And that's really when you can begin to write your own story as opposed to becoming a character in someone else's.
That is so powerful that I'm going to say it again. Never let someone else tell your story. Have the courage and the confidence to make sure that your voice is heard. Somebody else had asked a question earlier on, how do I make myself known if I'm in the meeting? And what I tell all my students is, you got hired because you have a brain. Right. So use your voice. You have an opinion that's different. Just because you've been there for a hot second doesn't mean anything. If you have something that's not like, I agree with so-and-so, you're adding value, and that perspective is important to that organization to move forward. So Ayesha, thank you for sharing that with us and being able to do everything that you have been able to do and find solutions. Cynt, what's your greatest learning? What would you want to tell future generations?
I want to tell future generations to never underestimate the impact that you are going to have on the world. That we each have a role to play. And of course, I lead the business side of a basketball organization. So I'm all about team and I'm all about positions. And we each have a position to play and we have a role to play. And that part is perfectly scripted. We just have to get in touch with what that role is. And once we find it, we have to go for it. So dream big. Just dream big about the impact that you're going to make. When I was growing up, and when I think about growing up and where I am now, there are 4 words that kind of summarize it. And it's dream, focus, pray, and act. Those are the words that kind of describe my whole journey. There was a big impact for me to have on the world. And it started, I think, with the big dream and telling me to dream big, no matter what my zip code was, no matter my circumstances. And then to always know that sometimes the light at the end of the tunnel is a train. Bad things do happen to good people, but there are people around who will help you rebound with grace, who will help you get up. That's the story of my life. Somebody always helped me to get up so that I could go and live out this great impact that I was to have on the world. So never underestimate it. Know that sometimes the light at the end of the tunnel is a train. Bad things do happen to good people. There are people to help you rebound with grace. You will get up, and then dream big, focus. So weed out the distractions, pray or do whatever you do to center yourself, and then take action, because you are getting ready to impact the world in remarkable, remarkable ways.
Also amazingly powerful. Dream, focus, pray, act.
Pray.
Cynt, you touched on something, and Representative Manning touched on it as well. Representative Manning touched on it as well. And that's sponsors. And what's really important, we've done some research, and we've seen that mentors, and I think it's important to make that differentiation. So mentors guide, sponsors act and do. And a lot of time, sponsors naturally will do for folks that look like them. And mentors might guide and help folks that don't look like them, but it's really important for all of us to ensure that we tap that person, as Ayesha said, on that shoulder, and we bring those folks to the meeting, even if we don't think that she might want to, or she doesn't think she's ready for it. We know that she's ready for it, and it's our responsibility to ensure that we're including her and giving her those opportunities, and not make judgments or assessments that, she has a family, she doesn't want to travel, or she doesn't want to do that, because that's for her to decide, not for everyone else to decide. And in light of COVID, we've also done research on the impact of women because of the unpaid labor at home. So my personal mission is, in my laboratory at home with my husband and 2 sons, is we are sharing the work, and I am creating productive members of society where I am not the only one who cooks and cleans. And by having that more equitable division of work at home can help her advance in her career even faster. Fran.
I love that. My husband has 5 sisters. He's the only boy. He has 5 sisters.
Yep.
I've been married 38 years because my mother-in-law raised somebody who can do what I do, who is not ashamed to carry purses, who can cook, clean, all of that. So I love what you're doing with your sons. Yes. They'll be married a long time.
At the beginning of the pandemic, I used my management skills, and I gave them fancy titles like vice president of kitchen and director of toilets. And we decided together what time of day we were going to clean the house. And there are 4 of us, so it's 8 hours of cleaning. And while there was a little bit of complaining, because I have 2 teenage boys, they did it, and it wasn't that bad. And we had a dinner rotation, and they're back in school full time. And I still only cook once every 4 nights. So that's like the biggest accomplishment, I think, of my entire career. And they're better cooks than my husband and I.
Fantastically said. Love that.
So Fran, who is your woman of inspiration?
Oh, we did that one. Did we
I did
just
that
do that one?
Your greatest learning.
We'll
Your
go on
greatest
to-
learning. I'm sorry.
Okay, threw me off there.
I know I had you for one more.
Yep. So I'll sum it up. There's four key things I would give advice either to my younger self or to anybody. Number one, which I think the other 2 have already hit on, which is just be yourself. It's very important to be yourself and not be someone that someone else wants you to be. Very importantly, my father was great at helping me see this early on in my career, which is find something you really enjoy, and that will make going to work every day a special thing to do. So and I've been very fortunate to love what I do for all of these years. Have confidence in yourself. It goes back to the question you asked a little bit earlier about, being the only or being the one. And when you walk into that room, just walk in with your head held high and be confident, because you probably have more answers than everybody else does in that room, and you know that. And lastly, I'll end with my favorite word, which is balance. Everybody on campus, my whole family knows that balance is my favorite word, because it's something you need to bring to every single aspect of your life. You need to make sure you have balance at work, make sure you have balance in your personal life, make sure that you just find time for your family, for yourself. If you have to get up from the office and just push yourself away from the desk, do it, go home, have dinner with your family, whatever it takes. But balance is key to success.
I think that's so important, and making time for yourself, which is something I think a lot of women, me included, really struggle with, because that's important, and we all need to recharge and have that as well. Final question, which I didn't prepare you for because that's what makes it fun. Lightning round. This has been a tough year for everyone. It's not a competition of who had a harder year, but what is one thing you are grateful for? Cynt.
I am grateful for the opportunity to focus on what I call my PMS, and we should all have it, men and women, my physical, mental, and spiritual health, to kind of get back. I'm a cancer survivor. So 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer, 1 lymph node away from stage 4, with 6 months to live. That was 10 years ago. And so what I learned in that time was the importance of physical, mental, and spiritual health. But then I kind of got away from it over the years. And so now I'm back. To Fran's point, I'm back in balance, and I have learned the importance of all 3, and I'm taking time to focus on all 3 of them every single day.
I love that. Ayesha.
Yeah, I think the reawakened awareness of the most vulnerable across our nation is something that, coming out of this pandemic, these are things that were not new to anyone, to any nurse or any public health professional, but I think there is a greater awareness now of who really is vulnerable in our communities, what we have created that keep people vulnerable, and really opening up conversations, discussions on understanding how we can change that. So it's that layered with the identification, the discussion, and the increased awareness of systemic racism and how that also plays a part in keeping segments of the population more vulnerable than others. So I'm excited at the opportunities that will come out of this, unfortunate and devastating pandemic. But I really do see that light on the other side, in really getting more people interprofessional, interdisciplinary, focused on what needs to be done to protect everyone.
That's so important. Thank you. Fran.
It's very hard to pick one thing. Very hard. But if I have to pick one, I would tell you that I'm most thankful for both my family as well as my A&F family. So through this pandemic, the amount of time I got to spend with my grown children and my husband was really unbelievable. It's not something that, grown kids come home and hang out at your house with you for, 3 months at a time, but they were in New York City and there was a much better place to be with us. And I'm very thankful for that time. Although it was obviously brought to us through difficult situation, that was a fortunate thing for us as a family. And my A&F family, there's no one I could have possibly gone through this pandemic with from a business perspective than the team that I have here. They came together, they stepped up, they aimed high, and we have an expression here, they got shit done. And they did it with a smile every single day, and it was just heartwarming. So
it's so incredible. In GSD, that's what I talk to my students about, the superpower. Now that you said it, I can say it, getting shit done, right? And it's hard to do. And I think we all realize that this work from home model has some benefits, and I'm hopeful that we can continue in some sort of hybrid fashion going forward, because I think it'll be really helpful, especially from a gender standpoint, as well. Thank you. Thank you, Fran. Thank you, Ayesha. Thank you, Cynt. You all truly are women of inspiration. I hope this audience has been inspired, empowered, gotten some tips on what to do. I want to thank Delivering Good for doing this. I know there was a link that was going down the bottom, www.delivering-good.org/donate. They were able to donate over $2 billion, I believe, of goods since inception. And that is really incredible, because these are for people and families that really need it. I want to thank my woman of inspiration, Andrea Weiss, the chair of Delivering Good, for inviting me to do this. Stay tuned for our next panel, which I believe is next Wednesday, The Power of Women in Philanthropy. Thank you all. Stay safe and have a great rest of your Wednesday.